We fly above the best. And who are the best? It surely isn't us aviators. It's the guys on the ground, the infantry, the artillery, and the mechanized soldiers. So we wanted to get on station with enough fuel, so we always flew, I say always the big word, with all the fuel we could carry to give them station time. And the reason for that is when you're getting shot at, you don't always read a compass right, or you don't always think right. So again, fly above the best, give the guy all the station time we can give him. Okay, as we were discussing the UH-1, we have the 40mm configuration here with the 40mm grenade launcher sitting up on the front. Again, the gunner sits in the left seat over there, and the aircraft commander and gunships sits in the right seat over here. And the reason for that is the rocket sight is on the right seat, so you can see the rocket sight up there. We call it the XM60 sight. Okay, as we walk down this aircraft, you should note we've also highlighted some bullet holes that we had on the aircraft. This aircraft has over 45 hits documented in the logbooks that has been shot up. Okay, now the aircraft served with the Black Cats, which is an assault helicopter company, and the gunships were called the Alley Cats, and that again is with a symbol. This is an Alley Cat aircraft 796 from Vietnam. Okay, the aircraft was built in 1964 by the Bell Helicopter Company, and it served in Vietnam until about 1973. As you knew, we withdrew from Vietnam in 1973. And I'd like to point out real quick that Vietnam did not fall until July of 1975. Okay, the American was out of the war at that time. Okay, as we walk down the line, we talked about configurations. Again, the aircraft commander sits in this seat right here. I want you to note real quick, we'll go inside a little later on, but if you notice, you're seeing the only armor protection in the aircraft, and that happens to be for the pilot and the co-pilot. The pilot and co-pilot seats are armor protected. If you scan to the back of the aircraft, where the gunner sits, the two door gunners, one, the door gunner on the right was a door gunner, the door gunner on the left was a door gunner crew chief, there is no armor protection whatsoever in this aircraft for those guys. All we did was sit on our chicken plates, okay? As we walk on down the aircraft, we talked about configurations. This is a rather unique configuration on the aircraft. This aircraft in the Alley Cats was in fact had a 50 caliber machine gun mounted on the side of it. And I apologize, we're just getting the mount done for the 50 now, which would be the correct mount, but this is, we got the gun on it right now. If you look down below, you'll see the rocket pods. Now the configuration of rocket pods was on a full hog, we carried 48 rockets or 24 rockets on each side. On this one here, we have the 19-shot rocket pods here. You'd have one on each side, and the other one was a 7-shot rocket pod, okay? The armor and the rockets mainly were HE, and mainly we had 10-pound warheads and 17-pound warheads, okay? We also had prox fuses on them. As we kind of go in here, if you would, highlight it again, take a look at, you could get a better view. The seat in here, there's no protection for those guys in the back, and for me, they were the real heroes in Vietnam. They didn't know what us two idiots up front were doing, okay? They flew back there blind for us. The aircraft, a B model we talked about, it's got a 44-foot rotor system on it. The Delta models and the H models had 48-foot rotor systems on it. And then you can see probably the normal configuration back here. Okay, as we come inside the UH-1 helicopter, it was designed to have a crew of 4. Aircraft commander would sit in the right-hand seat on the gunship. In the left-hand seat would be the co-pilot / co-pilot gunner, and then on the far left seat over there would be a crew chief / door gunner, and on the right seat would be a door gunner. And those are also the two guys that provided the maintenance on the aircraft when we were having the aircraft put up, with a little assistance from the pilots. Okay? Again, as we walked in the aircraft, I want you to note, if you look at the doors and everything, the only armor plate on this aircraft, or armor protection, is in fact these seats right here, with the pilot, aircraft commander, and the co-pilot gunner have. This does in fact come out, as you can see here, and that's a protection. Again, the guys in the back seat have no armor protection whatsoever. What we did in Vietnam, when you came to Vietnam, they issued you a flight vest, or a flak vest I should say. We as pilots put the flak vest down, the chin bubble down at the bottom, always set on the things, okay? A little extra added protection. We walk inside the cockpit. In the United States Army, the aircraft commander, even on the Huey, was designed to fly in the right seat, and that's why the instrument panel is so this way here, with the majority of the instruments on the right seat. You can fly the aircraft, though, from the left seat or the right seat. And then if you also notice, the instrument panel does not go as far out on the left-hand side, and that's why in combat, for the lift ships, the UH-1 Delta models, H models, when they're flying combat troops or combat assaults, they would fly in the left seat, so when they went into their flare, they could see the LZ coming into them and the grass and everything come up at them to better fly the aircraft visually. Okay? Again, the missions we flew in this aircraft for the Huey were, first of all, medevac was the primary mission it is designed for. But the aircraft was so good, the United States Army made it really a utility aircraft, the UH-1. And then we had the slicks, carrying the troops, and then the other configuration was the gun sheds, which we talked about earlier. So if we come inside the aircraft, the basic instrument panel sets here. You can see your primary, basic, real good instruments are on this side. You still have the backup instruments on the left-hand side. We come in, you notice the pedals here. If you also notice it says Bell on the bottom of them, you probably can't see that. Bell helicopter on the pedals. The cyclic stick is how we basically fly this aircraft. And then on the left-hand side, we'll talk a little bit later about the collective stick, and that's where you get all the thrust. You raise this up and down, both blades come up like this, both blades come down. That's your power. Again, the cyclic stick is how you tilt the rotor system to fly the aircraft, and the anti-torque pedals on the bottom are the pedals, or rudder pedals in aviation, that control the torque. We have a helicopter. What does it do when the blades are spinning? It generates torque. We have to counteract the torque with the tail rotor pedals. And we also directly control the aircraft at a hover. The hardest thing to do when you learn how to fly an aircraft, a little bit harder than a fixed wing, is how to hover it. And hovering is like flying a bicycle. Once you learn how to ride a bicycle, you never forget how to do it. But it takes a lot of time to learn how to hover. Okay, we come inside, you got the primary instruments, attitude indicator, altitude indicator, vertical speed indicator, compasses, your primary engine and transmission instruments here. The center console is where almost all your radios are located at, and also your what we call the Christmas tree lights, the one when you have a problem will light up until you got a problem on the aircraft. And the upper console up there, again, more radios and navigation systems up on top, and the circuit breakers. As we're coming inside the cockpit again for the second time, we'll talk a little basic about the flight controls again. In my center position here is the cyclic stick as we fly the aircraft we discussed. Down by my feet are the pedals, or rudder pedals, or anti-torque pedals for us on rotary wing aircraft. And then down right here is our collective stick right here. And this is the stick that we pull up and down to make the thrust on both the rotor blades angle of attack, I should say, change, okay? And that's the power of the airplane. So as we're pulling this up and when we go forward, we're going forward with the cyclic stick. If we want to bank to the left, we take the cyclic stick and go left. If we want to bank to the right, we go right. If we want to back up the helicopter, we back it up by going aft on the cyclic. If we want to go forward, we go forward on the cyclic stick. And you can see on all the controls, we have switches on the controls because we're here to fly the aircraft mainly from these two controls. We don't want to have our hands going all over the cockpit to fly and shoot the aircraft. So the gun switches are all here. Our primary instruments for the collective here to include our beat switches and our landing lights and search lights are all down on the collective stick. And then we come in through the center console down here. You'll notice we have a transponder setting up there. We have most of our radios sitting up here. We have our primary engine controls sitting down here. You still don't touch them when you're flying the aircraft. That's just how to start and stop the engines, okay? And if you came up here, we have our XM60 sight. This is the rocket sight for the aircraft commander to shoot the rockets with, XM60 sight. If you come farther left, we'll show a little bit later, we have the 40mm sight sitting up on top right here. That's to fire the 40mm in the nose. If we didn't have the 40mm, we would have the machine guns or the minigun sight there in place of the 40mm sight, so that would also come down, and the guy, co-pilot gunner, would then be aiming it from that seat over there. We all work as a team, okay? Okay, we already talked about the sights, the XM60 rocket sight sitting over here for the aircraft commander. We go to the left side of the aircraft. This is where we have the pilot, but he's also a co-pilot gunner. He's either going to be rocking the 40mm grenade launcher here, or the M60s, or the minigun sights. So we'll drop the sight down real quick so you can take a look at it. This is quite an art to fire the 40mm. It only fires at about 230 shots a minute, and you can actually see the grenade in flight as it's going out. So, and we thought these guys were the best ones. The guy who was your best gunner used to sit over here to fire the 40mm. But if you also look inside, as we put the sight back up again, go ahead and lift it back up. If you look down inside the cockpit here, you'll see where the ammunition for the 40mm came. It actually ran through the right side of the co-pilot gunner and a chute going back here that went back to an ammo box back in the back, and that's where we carried our ammo. And we normally carried about 300 to 400 rounds of ammunition for the 40mm, but our door gunners, each one of them carried 1,500 rounds of 7.62 machine gun ammunition for their 7.62 machine.